Hello, I'm Dr. Geotrau, and I'm here to tell you how video games are not a banal pastime or a waste of time, but you actually learn a lot from them when you play them. Video games are just like books. They are awesome little universes full of stories, lore, different types of physics, different representations of the world, and all of that is presented to you in such a way that you are not just a passive observer, but you're an actor in a story that is unfolding. And of course, you can learn a lot from it. If you're a person whose vision is not impaired, you are using Visuospatial reasoning all the time, from driving from home to your workplace to crossing the road when a car is coming. FEZ is a game tapping on these skills, and it does it in such a wonderful way that I wanted to make it my first review of the series. It is also the perfect example of how a commercial video game can systematically tap on specific cognitive skills. FEZ is an indie puzzle platform game, developed by Polytron and published by Trapdoor. It was first released for Xbox in 2012 and for PC in 2013. For this video, I will be playing the PC version. In the particular case of FEZ, there is a main cognitive skill the game taps into, and that is Visuospatial reasoning. Visuospatial reasoning is our ability to manipulate images in 2 and 3 dimensions. It allows us to make mental images of things we see in the world, to manipulate mental representations in our head in order to solve problems, to transform words into schemas or images, to transfer representations from 2D to 3D, just like we do it when we read maps, and to rotate objects in our mind, and even to solve problems simulating physical properties of the world, in our head. Now, FEZ taps into our Visuospatial reasoning skills thanks to its main mechanic, the world rotation. But let's talk about that later, and let me introduce the story first. FEZ is more or less a coming-to-age story. You wake up one day in this normal 2D village and get a mail saying that you have to visit the village elder, Geezer. He tells you this is a very special day for you as you will be given a special gift. Then you are being visited by Hexahedron, a block that turns out to be a cube, and which reveals to you the existence of a third dimension. Hexahedron then proceeds to give you a FEZ, which allows you to see and access the other dimension. However, something goes wrong in the process and Hexahedron gets destroyed, scattered throughout the world. Now, it is your duty to rescue the different Hexahedron pieces. But because somehow you were the cause of this mishappening, but also because Geezer, who also has a FEZ, indicating he has done a similar journey in the past, tells you he is too old for that and he has a problem with his eye, which is kind of obvious given his eye patch, which prevents him to access the third dimension. So you embark on a quest to recover the pieces of the cube, which gives you your 3D powers. For that, you get the help from a friend, Dot, a rainbow-colored hypercube, also called Tesseract, which serves as the knowledge helper tutoring you whenever you find a new mechanic. Your new acquired friend also has the power to see through doors so you know what lies beyond, helping you a bit with the navigation. Your first duty is to leave the village. It turns out no one has left the village before, except maybe for Geezer, because the only way to go out of the village is accessing the third dimension, and all the residents of the village are trapped in a 2-dimensional world. Dot tells you that the fabric of reality is being destroyed because Hexahedron, which was holding everything together until now, has been scattered, and if you don't recover the pieces, the universe will collapse, with you in it. Dot also tells you that initially you need 32 pieces in order to return Hexahedron to its original state. So you leave the village and start exploring a whole new world full of different environments, challenges, secrets and treasure maps, all trying to rebuild Hexahedron. This takes us to the topic of mechanics. Mechanics in a game are the most direct and organic way to foster and train cognitive skills. Forcing the player to learn something or to memorize a lot of information in order to progress is not really good for learning. Instead, it's better to give the player a specific set of mechanics they can practice and combine in order to solve challenges. Practicing and combining mechanics is more organic than the introduction of strenuous information, and finding new ways to use them in order to solve different challenges is already tapping on and fostering problem-solving skills. In FEZ, the main mechanic you use in order to overcome the obstacles is spatial rotation. You use your left button and right button to fold the world in their three-dimensional potential to create paths to advance or discover new entrances hidden on different dimensions. This taps on your mental rotation and spatial visualization skills all the time. For instance, in order to create a path from point A to point B, you need to project the figures at the left and right of the screen and try to figure out where to jump next. Some of these challenges require you to be quick, so combining the turns of the camera with the direction and height of the jumps becomes critical. You also have other secondary mechanics which make use of the main rotation mechanic. These are levers, which are points that can be rotated in order to open new paths. These are interesting because it forces you to look at different objects of the world from different perspectives in order to build a meaningful path. This is a good example. Here you need to rotate the pieces of a ladder, which are separated both vertically and horizontally, so when you look at it by the side, it forms a continuous ladder you can climb. There are also time levers, which will open paths for you for a limited time. This will not force you to be quick as normally games do, but instead it forces you to think of new ways you can beat the timer using the change of perspective. You also have bumps, which are pretty straightforward, but which mechanics become slightly complicated with time when you need to rotate the world for an explosion to reach its full potential. There are also some invisible platforms which are cleverly hinted by the environment or pointed in maps you collect during your trips. Eventually, you will find jumping platforms or crumbling platforms, which will force you to reach places in different ways you normally do, or push your projections and rotation skills against time. At a certain point in the game, black cubes start appearing. That tells you this is because space can only be folded a number of times without being destroyed, and without hexahedron to hold reality together, black holes will start appearing. Black holes make your progress in certain areas more difficult. This forces you to use different strategies to reach places you had reached with ease before. This is great from a cognitive perspective, because it forces you to create parallel strategies to those you have, preventing automated problem solving and fostering active problem solving. You are also given a map, which allows you to link areas and plan courses. This becomes particularly useful in the late game, as the map also tells you where to find missing pieces, treasures, and locked doors. The map is also cleverly designing colors for you to know which scenarios are done and which still hold secrets for you to uncover. There are other mechanics which I don't find that important in terms of skill development, such as these lever elevators, which are some sort of rotation elevators which allow you to reach places you cannot reach by other means. The game is also very forgiving in terms of death. Whenever you die, you just respawn in the last platform you were, instead of having to retry a level from the beginning. This makes the gameplay relaxed and the search for strategies easy. This is how it goes for the main part of the game, but this particular game is way deeper than that. Eventually, you will be introduced to a different mechanic, puzzle solving. There are different types of puzzles and different types of mechanics involved in puzzles, but we are not going to talk about that in this video. For the case of FEZ, there are certain special doors which you can access in various ways. Some very difficult, some relatively easy. These doors contain puzzles that after being solved will grant you an anti-cube. It is revealed to you that for each cube there is an anti-cube, so in order to finish the game you need not 32 cubes but 64. Anti-cubes are difficult to get. Some of them require you to reach for a QR code to get instructions to rotate something so the cube can appear. Some require a sort of cipher, giving you instructions for a code you need to input with your controller so that the door will open. And to make things more difficult, some of these ciphers appear only under certain conditions. For instance, this moon gate only appears when it's dark. I found it by mere mistake. Also, even though I learned the cipher, that is hidden in this corner of the game that I also found by mere mistake? It took me a shameful lot of time to realize the cipher needed to be read from top to bottom and not from bottom to top. And all the quest for the anti-cubes becomes more and more difficult and intricate, with ciphers for actions, numbers and letters, and a whole community of players around the world exploring the lore of the game and translating the cipher so that other players can get to different areas and, well, this is a lot for a video. Let's just say that apart from the main 32 cube game, we have a whole different anti-cube game tapping on hard problem solving skills, ciphering, and a whole meta game building a community of players focusing on solving the hardest puzzles of the game. This is a topic in itself, and we will certainly talk about these aspects in future videos. But for now, I will focus on the main 32 cube quest. You are Gomez, a regular guy that at a certain point of your life were given a talent. This part is easy to relate to any coming-to-age story, where the protagonist just reaches a point in their life where they need to go out of their comfort zone, learn new things about the world and grow. But for some reason, during the passing ritual something goes wrong. It is actually never explained why this happens, but this forces the protagonist to use their new acquired skills to solve the problem. In this case, this serves as a motivation to go out of the comfort zone and use the new skills instead of putting the FEZ aside and continuing sleeping. The adventure is a prototypic hero quest, except that there is no antagonist. The game is non-violent and there is no good versus bad conflict or an evil force destroying hexahedron. It is just a bunch of things that happen. And although Dot tells you that eventually the space will fold in itself and the universe will be destroyed, time is not really against you for solving the problem. Regarding the graphic design, it is cleverly done. The designer of the game, Phil Fish, came up with the concept of voxels, or three-dimensional pixels that can be seen in three-dimensional perspectives. The whole game rotates around this concept, and the art is wonderfully orchestrated around pixel art that is indeed voxel art. Everything from water to rain to random crazy stuff is portrayed in this fashion, adding a unique retro style to the platforming world. The game has an amazing mapping. For example, when you are facing one direction, it tells you in the background where you can go from that particular perspective. Dot also guides you by showing what is behind each open door, and tells you how to use things or hints you if something has a deeper meaning you need to decipher. The sound design doesn't fall far from the visuals. Rich Brillant managed to compose great chiptune music for the game. Just listen to this. Now, this game is giving more than I expected, and I want to talk about this. First of all, is the introduction of scientific elements or concepts, mostly in an implicit way. Amongst these elements, there's Dot, our tesseract friend, which is a representation of a cube in 4 dimensions. It is constantly changing both in shape and color, which is highly related to optics and relativity theory. We can find other elements like ciphers, which are part of a whole mathematics theory such as the one Alan Turing worked on during the Second World War. There are also elements of astrophysics, such as the concept of black holes that will swallow you if you get too close, and concepts from quantum physics such as particles and antiparticles. For each cube there is an anticube. And by the end of the game, there are animations insinuating the nature of the universe as waves and particles. From a more philosophical point of view, it is possible to interpret the game as learning how to look at the world from different perspectives and how this can free us. It is even stated by one of the characters in the game. Think about it. These people have been trapped in the same village all their life because they cannot see what is beyond. It is only when you think outside the rules that you can break through and see beyond. It is like being trapped inside a culture and not being able to understand other cultures until you go out and see that people can actually relate in totally different ways with stuff you thought was static. To this, we can add the exploration in the game. The game is extremely open. There are not many closed doors, and you never need to unlock an extra skill to access a new area. Pretty much everything is at the reach of your hand, allowing you to freely explore the different areas with your power of thinking outside the pixel. Even though I think the game is a masterpiece, especially in terms of fostering cognitive skills such as problem solving and of course visuospatial reasoning, it has some elements I found problematic. One of the most annoying things I found is how to navigate the maps and the areas. There are few teleporters and most of them are one way only, which means that whenever you realize you miss a piece at a point or you got a new key to open a door, you have to backtrack long distances, and sometimes getting lost behind a specific door or a specific area, preventing you from reaching your target and having to start all over again. Another thing I found to be an issue is the combination of cubes and anti-cubes, mostly because I feel like I'm playing two different games or two different difficulties of a game. The search for the cubes is an exploratory journey to understand the world and overcome its obstacles. This part of the game is almost zen, focused on visuospatial reasoning, and could perfectly be played by children. In contrast, the search for anti-cubes is a nightmare full of intricate puzzles, ciphers of many types, hidden areas, treasure maps, and QR codes. This part of the game is not mainly about visuospatial skills, but about high-level problem solving and deciphering, which is hard even for an adult. It is indeed so intricate that a whole community of gamers was created around solving the ciphers. The game could have benefited from a separation of these two elements, maybe given by the New Game Plus feature. Well, the game also has minor problems, such as areas no loading sometimes, so you have to go back and forth between the areas for them to load. But apart from that, I did not have any other problem. So in sum, FEZ is a brilliant piece of art. From its graphic design based on voxels, which resonates with the chiptunes of its music, to the game mechanics focused on visuospatial reasoning. Due to the non-violent nature of the game, the relaxed exploration, the forgiving nature of the deaths, and the fostering of visuospatial skills is a game I will suggest for any age from children to adults. Adults playing this game with their children, or maybe teachers using it in the classroom, might make use of these mechanics to teach drawing, or problem solving, or parallel thinking, or just thinking outside the box. So yeah, whatever your age or background is, I totally recommend this game. And even if you find it a little bit easy in the beginning, it will really be a challenge fishing for those anti-cues. If you like the video, please remember to like and subscribe, or follow me on Twitch for my streams. Stay tuned for more game analysis and have a nice day. And take care.